You're breathing so hot. A lot of political nonsense in the air. You're making it hard for the people who live in there. You're moving so fast, but baby, you know not where. Wildlife, what's gonna happen to wildlife? Animals in the zoo. Oh, oh, you'd better stop, 'cause animals everywhere. Man is the top, and animal too. And man, you've just gotta care. Wildlife, what's gonna happen to wildlife? The animals in the zoo. Breathing a lot of political nonsense in the air. You're making it hard for the people who live in there. Oh, wildlife, what's gonna happen to wildlife? Animals in the zoo. Wildlife, whatever happened to
Wildlife. That's what we're here for, folks. The wildlife. Indeed. Listen, we are here for a special little episode. And I say little with much anticipation because I really didn't have anything planned because I was hoping that you folks would possibly enjoy a break. You've been very supportive, particularly in the kids show. Pretty amazing, and I've been happy. That's what it was really aimed for. But the adults, I'm enjoying that as well, and I hope you are too. And like I say in the past, as long as you folks continue to want to be learn a little bit with me, I'll keep doing this. Okay, definitely going to do it throughout the summer. That was my promise, and I have obligations because there are other folks watching um, special folks, special young folks. And of course, this isn't the kids only show, this is the adult show. So I did want to bring up a very sensitive issue, and then we're going to call it. We're going to call it an episode, call it a week, so you folks can get out there on finally a beautiful weekend. It's certainly a nice Sunday here. I'm recording this at 11 a.m. in the morning, Sunday morning here in Hardwick, Massachusetts. But I know that our weather is very similar to you folks back home in the Hamptons and particularly on the East End. So, um, sorry to hear about the dead whale issues going on down there. Look, folks, there's a variety of reasons this could happen. Of course, it's easy to jump to a lot of speculation. And heck, sometimes that speculation can turn out to be quite factual. But there are a number of reasons why this is happening. Okay, there's issue with migration and feeding. I mean, they have found whales that are literally starving out there because of lack of the particular food. I know that's so hard to believe, but when you read the research and you read the study and you look into that, which I know some of you folks do, because I follow your posts as well, and I know there's some of those. Some of you real intelligent folks out there that I've worked alongside in the past, and are honored to be called friends of mine. I just know that you have to be careful. You can't just jump to certain conclusions, or you're going to end up running into issues of misinformation and bad information getting spread around. Okay, look, folks, my issue that I want to talk about real quick, and I apologize, I'm out of uniform because it's getting washed. I did the kids show yesterday, and I brought Bob the snake out, and Bob shat on me. Okay, so as quickly as Dee was going to have me all cleaned up by tonight, but again, I decided this morning that it would be best to let you folks get a break, get a short little informational here. I'm fixing to give to you, and then call it a day so you can get out and enjoy your weekend. All right. But look, we are upcoming on 4th of July weekend next week. Look, folks, last week there was an incident where somebody had posted something on my personal account saying that they were very surprised at me for posting and enjoying the fireworks here where I lived. And of course, this was from somebody who wasn't from around here. It was from back home where you folks are in East Hampton. And they were quite upset with me. And it just happened to trigger defensive um, um, emotion from me, and I really, without even thinking, which I should have did, because I don't remember who it was, but I do remember it was somebody that I respected. It wasn't somebody I didn't know. Um, I may not have known them well, but they had, I believe they had been, and may still be. I didn't boot them or anything. What happened was, I just triggered the response and said, how dare you, uh, say you're surprised at me. And folks, we really we really need to, of course, with all the social media going on and how we can be so involved with everybody's thoughts and opinions. I still think it would be so much easier if we could keep certain thoughts and certain opinions to ourselves, and keep certain parts of our lives a mystery. It sure would be a lot better. It was a lot better back when I was a kid. It didn't hurt anybody. It wasn't secrets that destroyed anybody's reputation. It's just things that people didn't necessarily need to know. And look, folks, I'm not pointing any fingers. I took to social media back at the beginning, just like you folks did, and I've used it for a lot of good, and I continue to. I hope so. But I see so much other things going on, and I just I really, uh, if that person's still around, I do want to apologize for that. Not sure if I have or not already, but I did mean what I said, but I didn't mean to fire out on you publicly, although I did it publicly on purpose because you called me out publicly. Of course, I care about the animals. I am in an area on the lake here that does have an annual fireworks show. Okay, I'm very concerned about the wildlife when it goes off, particularly my pets in particular. But my critters that I feed every day, I don't see them for weeks afterwards. And that always bothers me. And not to mention what I know is going out in the wild. All right. But as I reminded that person, I have no control of that. Okay. And I'm certainly, while everyone out is enjoying themselves, I'm not going to mope around inside my house saying I'm going to teach them a lesson and I'm going to sit inside and be that voice for wildlife. No, no. I'm being the voice for wildlife every weekend and practically every day of my life. Okay. For the past 30 years. So if I want to take a day and enjoy the fireworks because I have no option to have them move the fireworks anywhere else, that's what I have to do. Don't attack me for it. In fact, stay out of my business because that's what we all have a problem with. All right? Everyone has their own business. All right. We have social media pages. We offer a lot of information for ourselves. But if we don't offer information, okay, don't make it your business. All right. So just like I don't talk about politics, and I so respect my friends out there who I have difference of opinions with politically because they have the respect back and I don't ever hear them talking about politics with me or when they talk to me, it's never about that. It's always about other things that we share interests in. All right. And it never gets too personal. I was brought up that politics and religion are two things that individuals keep to themselves. And I quite frankly, I like that tradition. And I've always kept that tradition alive in my personal life. And you folks seem to respect that. And in turn, I respect all of you. And then when some of you might get out of hand about certain issues that I don't like to discuss, I block you or what have you. And I'm sure you folks do the same for me. That's how we, that's how we, that's how we should do things. Well, we shouldn't have to come to that point anyway. But at least this way we don't leave the things that bother us, leave them available to continue to bother us. All right. But folks, look, I don't have to defend how I feel about wildlife and how I feel about fireworks and wildlife. But I am going to enjoy the fireworks if they do show them this year. I don't like the fact that you folks have to do it uh, um, uh, on 4th of July rather than traditionally waiting, only because it's being done in a sensitive area and during a nesting season. And it's always been like that. But unless things have changed, if things have changed, then I guess that's fine. But if they haven't, I'm not quite sure why you're doing it. If you are, then certainly you're saying, well, we're not going to let the wildlife impact us having a good time regardless of how it affects their young and all the other things. However, fireworks affect us a little bit more here, okay, where I am, because we're in a very secluded, quiet location. So, but I've always had the feeling that animals um, understood the fireworks, because they certainly were accustomed to hearing thunderstorms, which is a lot of light and loud noises that come on suddenly. However, through my research, I was quite interested to learn how they get prepared for stuff like that. Of course, barometric pressure changes and the animals feel this, and it gives them the opportunity to shelter and prepare. And of course, they know that something's coming, so they're not surprised, as opposed to fireworks where it's just another night, and then all of a sudden, boom, and this, that, and the other. Okay, so there is a difference, and it's a big difference. However, you got to remember, I'm always an advocate about talking about the facts of about how animals understand certain things, and they have great memories. Like, for example, raccoons. Okay, they remember how to do intricate things up to 3 years and what have you. So it's also kind of makes me think, well, would they not remember that there is a time that noises and lights start bing, bang, booming out of nowhere once a year? And they are able to prepare by hearing maybe some preliminary showtime activities prior during the day or days following the big events. Well, I guess we never know. So we have to be careful. All right, folks. So I just to bring it up, okay? Um, Fireworks pose significant hazards to wildlife. They trigger panic, nest abandonment, and of course, fatal collisions. The sudden flashes, thunderous noises, and vibrations even cause animals to flee blindly into traffic. Of course, you folks know that on the East End with the deer and such. But you don't know about birds, and the birds, particularly the seabirds, they get freaked out. They fly way out to sea. Some of them don't have the energy to get back. Okay. And furthermore, the toxic debris that's left over, not to mention wildfires that are always a concern, but the toxic debris that absolutely is left over frequently destroys, poisons wildlife. And of course, wildfires frequently destroy local habitats. So it does screw the animals up in a big way. Okay. Um, Fireworks also create panic and disorientation for these animals. A lot of times, the mom might abandon offspring. Okay, which is really sad, and that's the case with the piping plover, folks. So just so you know, that's a good possibility. Habitat loss and wildfire and toxic ingestion, like I said, is a main problem. So how can you ease this impact? Avoid sensitive ecosystems, okay? Particularly during nesting sites, okay? So East Hampton Village ignores both those good advice. Good advice as far as easing that impact during the fireworks, because they both do it in a sensitive ecosystem, and they do it in a very well known nesting site. Like I said, unless things have changed, it sounds pretty ridiculous. But then again, you folks allow them to bury infectious carcasses, hundreds of infectious carcasses of geese infected with the avian flu That doesn't bother you that they bury them on the beach in Georgia Beach. So look, this is in your hands. It's not in my hands. This is something you folks are going to have to deal with. All right. Of course, it's not good to do it in any wetlands or wildlife refuges. Okay, and cleanup thoroughly is necessary. I mean, very necessary. You want to report displaced animals if you find them days following a fireworks show. That, of course, the wildlife centers get real busy. So doesn't the animal places. I mean, you folks with pets, how many dogs run away, and cats? That you folks that have outdoor animals, are they used to it, or do they take off running and you don't see them for days or at all? Not to mention folks with PTSD. Okay, fireworks can easily trigger people with PTSD, and that's to humans. All right, so have a little consideration if you know that that might be the case of your neighbor, somebody nearby. And of course, as we can see here, it is a known fact that explosions can frighten birds to the point of death, and also rabbits. All right, I get a little concerned, especially from my little bunnies out here. Noises and commotion like that can startle these animals to such a level of fear that they literally die. Okay. And my worst fear is the cleanup process. Who cleans up? Who's going to clean up? There's thousands of pieces of burnt casings of all sorts of materials, plastic, paper, all sorts of burned debris with gunpowder remnants on it. And of course, animals eat this and they die from it. It's toxic debris. Folks are supposed to clean up afterwards. They rarely do. Folks, this is 3 years, 2015, 2018, 2019, on the beach, the Village Beach, after the fireworks show in East Hampton. All right. And the debris on the ground was incredible. It was just everywhere. Okay, I'm just showing you little spots and pictures. Here's a picture that kind of gives you a better idea. But the debris is all over the place. It's not cleaned up properly. Look, I'm not. I hate pointing fingers. I certainly don't want to point them at the wonderful folks of the fire department. But whoever's responsible for the show, that would be the village. Okay, should put a little bit. Now, look, if the fire department's putting on the show, they should at least have somebody that comes either the next day or soon after to clean all the debris up, or certainly as much as they can. Now, this happens behind Hook Pond, of the ocean at Main Beach, back where Hook Pond and the ocean is separated by the culvert here. And let me show you a picture of the culvert the next day after the 4th of July. That's just one section of it. That is all firework debris, paper and casings. Okay? So it's it does make a mess. Fish, it's toxic for fish to eat this stuff. Look, we don't want balloons in the water. We don't want plastic. We don't want straws. Okay. We don't want paper and garbage on our beaches. We certainly advocate for our wildlife, particularly wildlife that is protected. Okay. And then for some strange reason, on the 4th of July, this shit doesn't get cleaned up afterwards. And this year, for some reason, the village is allowing it during nesting season. And it's not only the piping plover, folks. You got other nesting birds up in the dunes and nearby. And look, not my issue anymore. But what it all comes down to is this: you folks have no management plan when it comes to wildlife, and I've never said that you have. All right, this has been a problem for a long time. If you had a good management plan in place in East Hampton Town, Village, or wherever, whatever, you would not have a serious deer population issue that you've had for decades, okay, that not even the hunters can contend with. All right, the so-called hunters. How can you be called a hunter on the east end of Long Island when the deer just walk past you? All right. Oh, hold on. So I'm sorry about that, folks. That's my wife, Dee, giving me a call. So I'm going to get ready and cut this short and remind you folks to please enjoy yourself during the fireworks, but just be prepared. Prep yourself for the things that it is going to create. All right. If you see birds on the ground that might need some help, if you see a stray dog running around that might need some assistance or looks very scared, or a cat that might look lost, or a person that might need some assistance because they look out of sorts for some reason. All right. Have the decency, folks. All right. If you see areas that are so polluted with debris from fireworks that particularly in areas where animals congregate, please contact the town or the village or the people responsible for that and ask them to please come and clean that up. And then maybe you might want to check to make sure they do. Certainly before weather takes care of it, because that just spreads it down to other areas. All right. So you want to, just like hazardous material, which it is in sort of way of thinking, it certainly is for animals. You want to contain it first and then get rid of it. All right. Should be no different. All debris is hazardous material to animals. Okay. And of course, you folks don't have to worry too much about the wildfire issue because usually the fire department takes care of your show. But for you folks who have your own little personal shows at the beach, please be advised, okay? You don't want to start these fires because it's bad enough you have little wildlife habitat as it is on the East End. You don't want to make it worse by burning up what's left. All right. And then any reports of any possible abandoned wildlife or wildlife that looks distressed or disoriented. Okay. Don't just assume this animal is sick and it should just take care of itself, particularly if it's a young animal or a baby. Okay. Remember, folks, baby rabbits can leave the nest when they're very small. All right. But other animals shouldn't be walking around without their mama. Let me see. Opossums is 10 feet from nose to tail, I think. Or 10 feet, 10 inches. I'm sorry. You see an opossum 10 feet nose to tail, you run. Don't even call me. Just run. 10 inches, I think it is. And then, of course, little raccoons, the same size, running around by themselves. That's not normal without mama. Okay. And of course, fledgling birds without their mama. This can be a problem as well. And our lost pets. Please keep attuned to your Bionic Pets and all the other outlets where animals are lost animals are aided with community searches. Make sure you know the numbers and you keep abreast of the information going on. All right, folks? Look, I will be back next week. I'm not sure what kind of length of time I'm going to take from you. Of course, the kids' show, absolutely, next Saturday morning. But as far as the adult show, we'll see what kind, if I can get a guest on or something. But we'll keep it short because, again, I want you to start to enjoy your summer. I'll try to keep it down to a half hour as we go forward. All right, folks? Look, I really hope you have a wonderful summer and a wonderful 4th of July. Just please, folks. All right, please. Instead of always sitting in your house and driving your car and looking out your window saying, I can't believe these animals are effing up my frickin' this and frickin' that, and I almost hit a frickin' deer on the way home. All right? You got to stop and think. All right? What you are doing to impact the wildlife. All right? Because let me tell you, it's 10, 20 times worse than you think they're getting you. All right? At least you have control of the situation. They usually don't. All right? So, folks, have a little compassion, have a little empathy towards our wildlife. Because why? Wildlife matters. We know that. All right, folks. Happy 4th of July. We'll see you next week. 4th of July, America 250th celebration. And we'll see if we can come up with something a little happier and special. Meanwhile, be careful out there, okay? I want to see all fingers and toes next week.
Taking a walk through an African park one day, I saw a sign say animals have the right of way. Wildlife, whatever happened to wildlife? The animals in the zoo. You're breathing